1 minute 15 left in the game as I start recording, so hopefully this doesn't backfire on me. But it looks like the 49ers are going to get another win this week. Surviving the Giants, I think, would be the best term. It's been a close one. It's been an entertaining game in a sort of drunken kind of way. Both teams really just sort of finding ways to punch each other and somehow still getting back up. I think the 49ers were always in charge of it. We always looked like we knew what we were doing. Offensive line played really well today, probably for the first time I can say that this season. Maybe the Atlanta game as well. Brian Robinson and McCaffrey both ran the ball really well. Brian Robinson produced in a lot of phases of the game. He was good at kick return as well. McCaffrey's still McCaffrey. It seems almost redundant to talk about McCaffrey, other than to say whoever kept saying he'd lost the step's a fucking idiot. But we already knew that. So we're not getting anything from that knowledge. Mac Jones, really good in the first half. Not brilliant in the second half, but to be honest, did his job when it mattered. Juwan Jennings looked back to himself. Still on the offense at the minute. I hope George Kittle's okay. I know he came back in the game. He was hobbling a little bit. The reconstituted offensive line, I thought putting Spencer Burford in was a bit of a risk. We always hear about how the zone blocking scheme takes a while to gel, and then if it takes a while to gel, we're probably not helping ourselves by constantly moving the pieces around. But he was certainly better than Connor Colby's been. And Dominic Pooney looked a bit more like himself. Colton McKivitz had a difficult day, difficult assignment really, joined Brian Burns. I think he generally did okay. On most plays you look at, he did just about enough to avoid, a disaster apart from the sack fumble int just before half time. But generally he did just enough. He held up on a couple of plays that allowed Mac Jones to get rid of the ball. Difficult part now, defense. Not much good to say if I'm honest. I didn't think they played all that well. I think they tightened up after a horrible opening drive, and ultimately the record will show they did just about enough, but they gave up a lot of plays today. When we did well, it was mostly down to stopping the run on first and second down. With a bit of a lack of a pass rush, we need to win those early downs, make third downs more difficult. Once we started doing that, we got a bit of water. We stopped taking on so much water as a defense. It felt a little bit like we were getting closer to what we could do. Tatum Bethune was really good again. He's good in the middle of that defense. He just makes plays. Sam O was very good. Ronaldo Green deserves a little bit of credit. I thought he had a really nice game. Had a really key third down pass breakup when the game was still kind of in the balance. At 20-10. God, that feels like an age ago. But all in all, I think they'll be happy but not delighted with how they played in defence. Jackson Dart had a pretty good game against us. Threw some really nice passes, in fairness. One was broken up really well by Jair Brown towards the end. But yeah, I don't think they'll be jumping up and down, but I think they did the job. Similar with special teams. Special teams has been a running sore for so long for the 49ers that the fact that it's just average now is actually a massive improvement, Eddie Pinheiro's really good. Got nothing bad to say about Eddie Pinheiro. Makes his kicks. Thomas Morstead's a good punter. And finally, the coverage teams have started playing well. Luke Farrell gets my special teams shout out of the week. Made some really nice plays on special teams. So, pretty happy with that. A win's a win. And, it was a game I think we had to win. It was the first sort of hinge point of the season for me where lose it, you start thinking, oh, well, do we now become sellers at the trade deadline? Do we now start thinking about next year? Versus, okay, now we're buyers at the trade deadline. Who can we add to that defense to just keep it on the, on track and possibly improve it? Hopefully, Mikael Williams is okay. He took a bad one towards the end. I'm going to wait for updates on that one. Hopefully, nothing major. But yeah, all good stuff. There isn't really much to go into in much detail. I will be going into more detail on Niner Noise and Sidelinr Sports this week, so look out for those. But I think in general now, we'd just be happy with another win, and we move on. I keep being told the NFC West is a two-horse race between the Seahawks and the Rams. Apparently no one's looked at the table because we're going to be top. So Massive game up next against the Rams, though. Win that, and we could probably start thinking about what we're gonna do in January, what plans we're gonna make for playoff games. Lose that, and everything's kind of out in the open again. So hopefully we get a few people back. Hopefully we get Purcell back, Purdy back, maybe. Would certainly help, and maybe we can strengthen that defense. I still think an interior player would strengthen the defense just as much as an edge rusher at this point. A good, solid defensive tackle that can stop the run, help us win the early downs, and maybe make some disruptive noise, um, you know, on third down as well. But we'll see what happens. John Lynch has a reputation for pulling off those deals, so hopefully I'll be back with an instant reaction to a massive trade at some point this week. But if I'm not, I'll see you next week, and as always, and don't forget, go Niners!